There's an ingrained mindset in our leaders that have been working for decades that the way to be successful in an organization is to get promoted up the organizational chain of command. So that entire careers have been built around getting to the next level. Well, when I look at that, that's just a game, right? So we look at the rule of the game. The way to succeed is by getting promoted to the next level. So that everything I do in my career is about getting direct reports. It's interesting to me, I worked years ago for a financial services firm, and many organizations that I've talked to, right, their power base for leaders came from building their worlds, and they actually use those words. That's that person's world. It's like, wow, we have to connect things to a world of people, because the more direct reports I have, the more power I have. Well, as we work in organizations that are more virtual, that are spread globally, I may have direct reports, but I may never meet them, or I never see them, in an office ever. Well, that changes how I lead, but I'm still connected for some reason to the number of direct reports. The shift in mindset that I like to bring to leaders is that your power comes from inside. Your level of influence in the organization should be tied to how much strategy you're actually driving. So if I'm accountable for the biggest initiative that's a new product development for us, that's more important than the fact that I have 5 resources reporting to me. Because having those resources report to me is about making sure they're okay and successful. But if I don't deliver on my accountability, we as an organization don't meet our strategy. That's more powerful to me. So when we can actually make the shift to accountability, they can actually start to see a better way that here's where my power really comes from. I want to be driving more strategy versus little pieces. Interesting enough, one of our consultants was training a group of senior leaders, and she was in this conversation and had talked about letting go of the hierarchy. And in fact, wouldn't let them talk about who reported to who for an entire day. They weren't even allowed to mention it. What was interesting is their chief quality officer had actually pointed out that his entire career had been built around making sure that he was in control of everything that was around him, right? And he had to sign off on things. So he wanted to make sure that he knew what was going on. So it was always about getting people to report to him so that he had control. And as he's learning about the structure and how a matrix works and how Matrix Management 2.0 brings a new perspective, he said, I really understand that this is the way to go. But my entire career has been operating this way. And that's a hard shift. And when we're working with organizations, and if you're in OD and HR and you need to shift through that change, that's really important to recognize. We have to appreciate the fact that we're asking leaders to shift. And some leaders can get there and some can't. And that's another piece in an organization, that if you want to operate as a matrix and you redefine the role of leader, there are some of your leaders that can't succeed there. And we have to recognize that. And we have to actually tap into how do we coach them and how do we develop them so that they can get there. And if they can't, then there needs to be a decision about what kind of role they have. Because if we leave leaders in these positions that they want to use a directive approach, we're going to see an unengaged and disempowered workforce. And that's not what creates a culture of success. So the leadership behavior has a direct impact on the professional behavior. So a lot of times people are asking us to train the professionals on how to work in the matrix, when the conversation I have is, well, let's train your leaders on how to lead in a matrix and lead without authority, because if we do that, the professionals will be able to actually do their jobs. And that's hard as a shift, but it's so critical to success.